We're here, just kind of getting set up, waiting for a few people to get into the room, but nothing much is going on yet. So if you are watching this stream, that's why we're not started yet. Okay, I hate to have so much dead air at the beginning of the video, so I think we are going to go ahead and start. Welcome, everybody. We're here for our weekly Area 51 webinar, and today we are talking about setting your strategy. So basically, how to know what you're doing and why you're spending so much time on this content thing. Because I think we can all agree that this really is where marketing is going, and there are a couple of really good reasons for that. To begin, it's really low-cost marketing, and you can be a really small operation and look really big if you know how to do it. Now, for several years, well, actually still, I mean, I've been running my current website for 5 years and running it solo for the most part, although I've had people here and there helping me at with different things. But as long as I'm doing my solo website the way a big company would do theirs, I don't look a whole lot smaller. I end up looking like an agency, or maybe like I have a few employees working with me, because I'm doing it the way a company of that size would do it. Same thing with Crazy Egg. We're an operation of 5 people running the business, if you don't count Heaton and Neil Patel. And we're able to do really big business stuff with a lean staff because of content marketing. And of course, it helps that Neil and Heaton are geniuses when it comes to marketing, but content is a big part of the reason everyone knows they're geniuses, because you can really show off what you know and how well you do things if you are into content. And so let's dig in and look at why this is working so well and how you can set your strategy so you can achieve big business results, even if you're working solo or in a small team. Okay, to begin, you basically need to answer 9 questions, and we're going to review that throughout this presentation. And then, of course, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to build on this. I'm already preparing some outlines for some really cool follow-up stuff to this. But let's say that you are trying to create your strategy, and your goal is to essentially do big business no matter what size you are. You start with your goals, and you have to know right off the bat, what do you want to achieve with your blog? Oh, and by the way, guys, if you have any questions as we're going, I'm trying to watch comments and questions a little bit better. I think if you put it in as a comment, I can see it better, but go ahead and throw out questions, and we'll see if I can answer them as we go even. So feel free to do that. But what you want, here we're mostly talking about blog in this presentation. Now you can expand this to include all kinds of content, but let's really hone in on your blog with your goals here. Do you want your blog to achieve subscriptions? And in my opinion, this is your most reasonable goal, because that's really what a blog is about. It's showing off your credibility and the fact that you have something of value to offer, so people want to follow you. Now, here you're not building leads. You're basically building a list of people who love what you do, and you're going to try to build relationship with them. So that's what I mean when I say subscriptions. Build your list so you can then start developing leads down the road. You can do sales, but this is a less reasonable objective for your blog, because you cannot sell directly. And I have a really great post coming out in a few weeks about what you need to do if your blog post accidentally looks like a sales page, because it really shouldn't. Your blog can give you some media attention. You can get backlinks, although that's no longer a high priority. It can get you noticed enough that people start asking you for interviews and speaking engagements, mentions. So again, trust and credibility. In my opinion, your blog is fantastic for that. You can do some customer support. If you are a company that has a customer support like call center and they are being overwhelmed, if you could answer some of their questions in the blog, you can actually reduce some of the strain on that resource. That's also a very good objective for a blog. Now, you can try to drive downloads of different products, and there is a particular tactic that we'll probably talk about in depth down the road, and that is content upgrades. Basically, you write your blog post to be a lead. It's informational, but you don't answer all questions, and you ask people to log in, basically give you their information so they can download the extra information. And then every time you have a form, you can have that little checkbox like HubSpot does, saying, hey, do you want us to contact you for a demo? And so there are a lot of different things, and all of these things you can achieve with your blog. It's just, again, sales is probably not your highest priority. If your goal is sales, I would say you need to be measuring how many clicks you get to a landing page from the blog, and then which blog posts are driving those clicks. And that brings up an interesting point. Basically, whatever your goal is, that's how you determine what metrics you need to be watching. So your key performance indicators are going to change depending on what you are trying to achieve with your blog. And then as a side note, all right, we're talking strategy. Once you decide what your goal is, another side thing that at this point you probably need to be setting up is how will you manage that blog? Who's going to be your content team? And I have a few ideas written in here. A bigger company might have a content director who oversees the managing editor and blah, blah, blah. In our case at Crazy Egg, I'm the managing editor and I'm it. I run it. So I come up with the strategy and everything else. But I have a writing team, but I do any graphic design work that needs to be done. So you can combine jobs, but essentially those are kind of the tasks that need to be done once you know what your goals are. Now, secondary and sort of with your goals, and it's hard to know which comes first, in my opinion, and that is your market, because how you achieve any goal is going to depend on who your market is. So who are you serving? What kind of people are they? What do they like? What do they hate? What are they afraid of? What kind of personality are they? Millennials are going to be way different from baby boomers, retirees from college students, and you kind of need to know who you're talking to so you can talk their language. And I think that's the biggest issue, is talking in a way that resonates with them, that they feel like they're talking to a friend. And also, what are their questions so you are answering those questions? And again, who they are is going to determine what their questions are. Now, once you know those kind of things, your next question is your core message. What are you going to be talking about? And in my opinion, this is where a lot of blogs miss the boat. And I call this, we're going to get to that in a minute. The core message is basically, what is the underlying thing you are trying to say to your audience? Like if you were to sit down with a brand new client and they're coming at you with, but I want this, 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 and this. What is the thing that you say to them every time to get them back on track? That's your core message. So for instance, with Crazy Egg, we, a year ago, made the switch from talking generally about digital marketing, which I happen to really enjoy, to honing in on conversion rate optimization. That was a very difficult challenge for us because most of our writers were not conversion experts. And so it took a lot of retooling for all of us to be able to hit that mark. But it really was a smart move, because if you think about what Crazy Egg, the product is, it's a heat map. It's visual analytics. So why do you use analytics? to get better results on your web pages. So for us to go to conversion rate optimization really lines up with the product. So you can see the thought process here. You have to think about what you're selling, why it's valuable, and then what is the message people need to understand. For Crazy Egg, to make your website more profitable, that's the promise that's actually on the homepage of the Crazy Egg website, then you need to be testing, and Crazy Egg will help you do that, even if you're not a numbers nerd. And so I just this weekend, I updated the look of the blog, and I put a new theme on it, and I changed the tag for the blog just a little bit. And it's basically, conversion rate optimization made easy, because truly our target audience is although the experts, the really experienced guys use Crazy Egg, they probably don't need our blog content, but people who are more beginners and intermediate conversion rate optimizers are still learning. They're using our content and they rely on our heat maps. So I'm actually targeting the blog to that audience. So you see how I just identified my market and I identified my core message. And that's what you need to do for your blog if you're going to actually get any results from it. So included in this is your value proposition. Any value statements like the 10 core values and Zappos, you need to just Google Zappos core 10 values and go look at what they did. I love it. Any content that you wanted to create to communicate your core message might include a manifesto, your about page, any free download that you give with subscription. All those are great ways to communicate that. Now, once you have those initial 3 things in place, you can hone in on your core topic. And to me, I like to use the term umbrella topic. And it can be a broader umbrella like digital marketing, or you could bring it in tighter to like conversion rate optimization. You can do it however you want. Just make sure that there is nothing on your blog that doesn't fit under the umbrella. And that's your core topic. So as I said, on Crazy Egg, our core message is to make your website more profitable. You need to test. So our topic is conversion rate optimization. And then the content can include anything that supports that message and talks about that core topic or helps to people learn more about it. I think Disney is a great one because, you know, they're business to consumer. And if you think about what their message is, I mean, I don't know that they say this overtly anywhere, and they might, but I don't know. A happy family creates lifelong memories. It could be something like that. Their core topic is family fun, and then they provide that through every piece of content they produce. And that includes movies, TV shows, magazines, everything. So think in terms of your core topic and how you could be supporting your value proposition and your core message with it. And then once you have that, you can break it down into your categories. I typically recommend that you have anywhere from 5 to 7 core categories, but you know, every now and then you need to have more. It just kind of depends. And sometimes, as in our case, we changed topics on Crazy Egg. So I actually have a lot more categories that may not fit now, but I've got a ton of content in them. So I just leave them there and I don't worry about it. But you know, in our case, conversion rate optimization, we're talking about testing, copywriting, usability, design, analytics. Any kind of on-page element is fair game. And although traffic does not really fit under the conversion umbrella, it is part of the game. And so as long as we're talking about conversions in your emails, I'll go ahead and talk about emails as well. So you can see how knowing what my umbrella is helps me determine what the categories ought to be. So that's the next step. And then we're looking at the format. You need to know, again, who's your market? What kind of format do they prefer? And this is not about what you want to produce. This is about what they want to consume. So are you going to primarily do text, graphics, or media? And then you have a ton of options underneath that. Text is where things have always been, because if you think about it, I mean, 10 years ago, we were still doing print for everything. it was only really radical, cutting edge companies that were online 10 years ago. But blog posts have predominantly been text. Well, it's maybe time to shake that up. If your audience is getting younger, or if they spend a lot of time traveling or on the road, maybe what you need are podcasts or videos. Maybe you serve a very visual market. If you think about it, that's where Apple has made their mark with digital people, designers, young people, people who love something that's attractive. They rely heavily on graphics in all of their things, and they go for a really sleek Zen design, which I actually happen to like. But that makes them attractive to anyone who loves visual elements. So think in those terms, think about what they prefer to consume, and then think about the different possibilities for producing content in that genre. And you don't have to pick one. That's the nice thing. You can mix it up. You can have some text. You can have primarily text if you want, and then also have infographics, and then add media and maybe grow into that if you find that it gets better results. The trick is to watch your analytics so you know what people are preferring. And that way, you know, if they love your podcast, go ahead and start making more podcasts. What I did when I came on to Crazy Egg, I had a guy contact me about doing podcasts for us, and I had no budget other than paying my writer. So I had to keep it affordable. And so I just told him, go through the blog each week, pick the article, the one article that week that you think makes a best radio show kind of thing, and turn it into a podcast for me. And then at the end of the month, he just turns in an invoice. I just kind of set him loose on the blog. Well, we have a podcast without any extra work from me, and it actually is not that expensive to have it done, just one a week. So that was a good way for us to step into some audio options. Just last week, we had our first webinar, and that's going to help me do live presentations, but also add some video elements to the website. So these are different ways you can step into different formats without really shaking things up too much. I mean, we're still primarily text, but I would like to see other types of formats on the blog. I think it's time to do that. Now, you do need kind of a style guide. Once you know the format, you need to decide these other things like length, tone of voice, your style, how you're going to use images. And then every person who writes for your blog needs to know what the style guide is. This is not something that should be secret. This is something that everyone who's involved needs to know. So it looks like it's coming from one brand, not from a lot of individuals. And I think that's part of the key here. So in our case, let's talk about length for a minute. Neil Patel, if you follow him at all, you know, he recommends 2,000 words minimum. I mean, he wants an epic post every single time you publish. And if you are at least involved on any level at creating content, you know what a pain that is. To write it takes a ton more research, which is a lot of time. To edit it, that's a pain for me too. And so I think you need to have at least 400 words in most cases. If you've got a video or some other infographic, some other kind of graphic thing, you may actually not make the 400 word minimum. That's okay, just so long as what you do have is well optimized. But on my website, I just want 600 words minimum, and just so long as it's well researched and specific. So I want it to actually, it doesn't matter how short it is so long as it offers value. On the Crazy Egg blog, because it's for Neil and he prefers longer content, I set a minimum of 1,000 words. And I inherited that length. I encouraged longer, whereas the previous editor, he actually wanted to keep it close to 1,000. I'll let someone go epic length if they want to, because I feel like that does add value, and it gives us some of those pillar pieces that we'll talk about in another webinar. But length, I'm pretty flexible on. I don't think it has to be like, if you were doing a print newsletter, you would have to stay tightly within your length. I think you just need to set up a guideline. So the guideline for Crazy Egg is 1,000 words minimum. The guideline for my website is 600 words minimum. I actually fudge towards 700 minimum. But I know sites that have very short content and they don't worry about it. Others are like they have 400 to 500 words and they won't go over that. So you just need to decide what works for you and your audience and just stick with it. Then tone, again, you're talking to your audience. What do they prefer? Talk the way they talk, if at all possible. If you're a stuffy bank and people expect you to be well educated, then speak in that format, but still make it approachable. Avoid jargon at all costs. You just don't want to do that. And that sort of tone and style they kind of work together. So your attitude and your approach and how formal or casual or academic you are. I do think, and I have researched in here, I think you need to be researched anyway, but that's just me. Use of images. I know of brands that their guideline is at least one original image, and that's their whole guideline. And they may offer more, but they only require the one. The Crazy Egg blog I inherited used tons of images, but they're ugly. And I don't like the quality of the screenshots we're getting and the way the blog looks. And I think that's becoming more important. So I'm trying to find ways to make it attractive visually and still provide what the Crazy Egg owners want. So again, you may need to test different things to see what works for you. And now, how you deliver your content is the next thing. So, we've talked about all these other questions. Now that you kind of know what you're producing, you know who you're producing it for, and you know the formats you want to produce, how are you actually going to deliver it? Well, if it's text, that may be your blog. It may be that if you're a follower of John Morrow, he says you need to be guest posting before you're posting on your own blog. I don't know that I agree with that completely, but it's a strategy and it's worth doing. So definitely consider that. But then these days also, I know writers who don't have their own website, but they're publishing on LinkedIn. And I know some who do have their own website, but they feel like they're getting more traction in LinkedIn. My only concern there is that you don't own that property. And in my opinion, you need to be posting where you own the property, and that's your website. Now, if you're doing media, you could actually develop a channel on YouTube. You could be doing your podcasts in iTunes, but you can reproduce all of that on your blog. So media can go on your blog as well. Same with presentations. You could create slide shares. You could have webinars that are just running in the background all the time. You could have tweet chats. You could have webinars we talked about. So any kind of presentation you can be doing, you can record it and you can use it to help create more blog content. Then you have print, which is not dead. In fact, there's a little bit of a revival with it, in my opinion. I think some brands that are totally online are doing a brand magazine, and it's kind of working with them. Okay, I have someone who says that the live webinar went off, and so if you could send a comment real quick, letting us know if you're still getting it. I do know you can go to YouTube and watch it in there if you need to. Go to Catherine Aragon Live in YouTube, and we should still be streaming in there, even if you can't see it from here. I hate that happens. Presentations, we talked about that. Print magazines, don't downgrade them. And a newsletter, you could actually do a newsletter that's more than just an alert about your blog post. It could actually be a print newsletter, and it could just be a 11 by 14, is that the 11 by whatever, and it's folded in half. It could just be that small, but sending something in the mail really impresses people. Okay, we have words. Someone hit refresh on their page and they got back on. I hope that is true, because I would really like for you guys not to have technical issues with the webinar. That's no good. Okay, and social media is kind of a place where people are publishing now, so don't disregard that one either, as not just for promoting your content, but actually sharing content. And then we come to, of course, the next thing, how to promote your content. So once you have it developed, you need to get readers, you need to get eyeballs on it. And most of us do a newsletter. And when we say newsletter, we really just mean a blog alert. And that is an email going out, hey, I just published something new, here it is. But don't be afraid to use your newsletter for other things, but that's a great use for it. You could, if you prefer to call it an email, use email. Social media. And so you need to think in terms of which are the channels that connect. And that may surprise you. I just got some feedback on the Crazy Egg blog that on our Facebook page, it doesn't look like we're getting a lot of engagement, but a whole lot of the traffic on our website comes from Facebook. So you need to get the numbers of where your traffic is coming from so you know which ones are best. In my opinion, the top 3 are going to be Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, depending on who your market is. I mean, LinkedIn, of course, if you're business to consumer, then no. But if you're B2B, you need to be in LinkedIn. I get tons of traction on LinkedIn. And then another trick for getting it in front of people is to make it easy for your readers to share it. And there are tons of really cool click-to-tweet plugins right now and images that you put in that look like they could be shared on Facebook. And hold on, I'm going to back up our presentation just a little bit because here, this is a screenshot and it's a new thing. It's something that can be shared on Twitter or in Facebook. And if you think about Twitter, it only allows you to have 144 characters. Well, a screenshot lets you go past that because it's an image. So that's a really cool way to get around some of that. But it could just be an image in your blog post and then it's tweetable, and that's cool. Another thing to promote your content, if you happen to feature someone who's involved in social media, some people are too busy or they don't care or whatever, but I wrote an article that featured Brian Massey, and another article I featured Noah Kagan. And I emailed each of them, not with a template. I just emailed them as a person. And I told them, hey, you know, I featured you in my blog post this week. I thought you might want to see it, and sent them the link. And I have got great relationship with these 2 guys now. I mean, I'm kind of working with them on different projects because I just went to the trouble of featuring them. And that creates this reciprocal relationship, pardon me, even if it doesn't necessarily get me the social shares that I wanted. But I think it definitely can help. So consider not sending the form emails that you see people put out there, but don't do the compliment and then ask the favor. Just let them know, hey, I thought about you, or I'm impressed with what you're doing and I featured you, and just make it a give and don't do a take with it. And then finally, your RSS feed. Don't be afraid to do that. People may steal your content, but there are ways around that. And your social share places. And those are basically your best ways to promote your content. I know there's tons of others, but these are the things that I typically use. Any questions? We're at our half hour. I do know that. And I'm looking, I see the only comments I see so far are about the webinar going off for somebody. So let me know if you have any comments or questions and we can chat about them. But essentially, once you answer these questions, I want you to go to the Area 51 posts, because I put a link in there with a template for how you take this information and turn it into a strategic plan. So I'm talking you through how you're going to think about it, but you need to actually write it down. And then when CMI says, yes, but do you have a written strategy? You can say, ha, 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 I do, because you need it. It will help you stay on track if you have everything written down. And it's actually quite easy then to take that and create the resources your team needs. That's something I need to share with y'all probably. And that is my writer guidelines that I use on Crazy Egg. It's probably the most in-depth thing that any editor puts out, but it saves me a lot of time. So go into the Area 51 posts. You should have a link in your sidebar when you're logged in, and download that template. It's a Word document, so it will be really easy for you to edit it and make it look nice and put in your answers to these 9 questions, and then you will have the document you need. If there are no questions, and it looks like there are not, then we will go ahead and call it quits because we're at the half hour anyway. So last chance, if you have a question, let me know. I don't see anything right now. Okay, so next week, here's what we're going to do. Planning your content. This is 4 types of content and where they fit into your strategy. And we will talk about that. And then the one after that, I think I'm going to go into the different tasks that you're going to need. I've already got that presentation made. And so it's just getting the details right on it. So next week, we're going to do, instead of planning your strategy, we're going to talk about planning an individual piece of content. And so let me know if you have any questions, and see you next week.